Deforestation in Kenya remains a big threat to wildlife and people.
Our big headache in Narok is the issue of forest destruction. We have critically endangered wildlife species.
But in Loita Forest, Narok County, the community has taken it upon themselves to conserve the forest.
We form ourselves around a community through the Ten Boma approach.
Ten Boma is a wildlife security initiative that focuses on providing security for wildlife and people.
Huwezi kata mti because hii buffalo haiwezi ishi in an open place.
Kwa hiyo inaonyesha jana ndovu walipita hapa.
If success has not been achieved in the much talked about Mau Forest in Narok County, the story is different in the neighboring Loita Forest. The community around the forest has played an important role in conserving the forest and has become a case study on how to manage forests. Today, we traverse the expansive Loita Forest to find out just how the community is doing it differently. Welcome, I'm your host, Alex Chamwada, and we begin with some facts about the forest.
Loita Forest, locally known as Naimenenkyo, meaning the forest of the lost child, is one of the remnants indigenous forests in Kenya, in the larger Mara ecosystem that also includes the Mau and the Nyakweri forest. Loita Forest stretches over a range of hills that rise up from the bottom of the Rift Valley, reaching 2,300 meters above sea level. It covers part of the land used by the Maasai community, whose ancestral land straddle the border with Tanzania and is one of the few non-gazetted community forests in Kenya. Located in Loita Division, Narok County in South Kenya, Loita Forest measures 33,000 hectares and geographically is situated between 35.880 to 35.930 east and 1.550 to 2.010 south. For the Chamwada Report, I'm Michael Zimanji.
The Mara ecosystem in Narok County hosts many wildlife species and is a key tourist destination. Leaders in the county say they take conservation of forests in the region seriously.
It's not just about Narok, it's about the region. It's about Africa, it's about the world. Because some of the area have been handling like the Maasai Mara impacts, lives of millions beyond Kenya. And of course, you can't do it alone, and that's why we've been actually out to bring the communities together to try to participate. Because if everybody plays their role, then of course it becomes easier to conserve the environment. So there's a lot of work, of course, we still need to do for people to understand the importance of conserving the environment.
We've been working with communities to see how best they can make use of the land around Maasai Mara National Reserve. And that's why they have created those issues of community conservancies. We have around 16 community conservancies that are hosting wildlife in private land. But now, these are landowners that have come together to put their land together, make good use of it, do a lot of planning work, which IFAW has played a role in terms of the development of those management plans for land use around those areas. And it's working very well.
Now, there is something called the Ten Boma conservation model. This is the model the community around the Loita Forest is employing to conserve the forest. Chams Media's Lilian Mwelu and crew spent time with the community to understand how the model works.
Thank you, Alex. And yes, we are in the middle of Loita Forest, and we will be joining the Ilkimpa Community Conservation Association, ICCA, to understand their approach in conserving this forest.
We set out from the capital, and our destination took us from paved roads to rough roads to thickets, and ultimately Loita Division in Narok County, home to the expansive Loita Forest. In 2016, carcasses of elephants suspected to have been killed by a gang of poachers were found in Loita Forest, raising a concern for International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFAW, other NGO stakeholders, and the community. In an attempt to prevent more cases, the Ilkimpa Community Conservation Association, ICCA, was born.
So it really was then that we started to take a look at what we as IFAW, through our Ten Boma initiative, could do to help or lend a hand, certainly, to what the community wanted to do to secure the Loita Forest for wildlife. And certainly there are other challenges there as well, encroachment into the forest and the cutting down of indigenous trees. So I met with Crescentia, who's the head of the Ilkimpa Community Conservation Association, and we together designed the project that we have in Loita now, which is an offshoot of IFAW's Ten Boma project.
The association, we are into conservation of the Loita Forest, because we are adjacent to the Loita Forest. And what we do is preservation and protection of the fauna and flora of the Loita Forest. That is the ecosystem, the wildlife, and everything that is in the Loita Forest.
ICCA's conservation approach uses the Ten Boma model created by IFAW to map any threats to Loita Forest, then design mitigation and management methods that can help reduce the threats.
Ten Boma is a wildlife security initiative that focuses on providing security for wildlife and people that live near protected areas in a way that can build a system that ladders information about threat-related activity up from the community level and aggregates that data and reporting, analyzes the information, and then delivers it to a law enforcement entity, a Kenya Wildlife Service, or a Kenya Police, or community rangers, for instance, the ICC community rangers, but that it delivers that information in a way that is usable and in an operationally relevant time frame for law enforcement to take some action on it.
Equivalent to the Nyumba Kumi initiative used by the government to enhance security, Ten Boma model involves different groups in the community, each playing a significant role in conservation.
One of the pillars of Ten Boma is that it is a bottom-up initiative. It is to work with communities and lend expertise or training or equipment or to connect with other NGOs, but to bring that to the community and then make sure, and then we endeavor to make sure that the project is bi-directional.
So we have the rangers, community rangers or scouts. The community rangers act as our eyes also, because we cannot all of us access the Loita Forest. Besides the rangers, we have the elders, and through the Oloiboni, the elders come round to discharge their duties. We have women. Women carry on all the activities that go on around the home. They all tell different stories about this. Another thing is we bring in Morans. The Morans form the cultural side that hold the traditions together.
The Oloiboni, who is the community overseer and the custodian of the Loita Forest, locally known as Naimenenkio, plays a very key role in the conservation of the forest.
The forest is used as a sacred place, and in his role as the custodian, Oloiboni says he has to be consulted before any activity takes place here. Oloiboni says the forest has been in a good condition for as long as he can remember and affirms that its future is safe. Volunteering women from this group called the Nkonyeko Kimpa receive photography lessons to aid in their documentation through provided cameras offered by ICCA through IFAW and Lensational.
The women will sit and tell so much about what is happening around them, about their encounters with wildlife, buffaloes, elephants, but it's never documented. You can never tell a story. You can never go back to a library and say, oh, this is the story they told me. No. So if we can make the women document conservation through their eyes, then it will make a strong point for conservation.
Having started out as amateur photographers, the women who now match professional skills say the project has been an eye-opener for them.
Before tuanze kupiga picha, hatukuwa tunajua maana ya environment yetu, hatukuwa tunajua maana ya wild animals, lakini after kuattend lessons ya kupiga picha, tukakuja tukajua maana ya ku-maintain our environment na maana ya kuwa na wild animals within us.
Nikitayiolo sii ajo kore piwosh naaji iltomia peyie nena pishai naa kisaidia yiok oleng amu mikiyiolo apa ajo keeta iltomia maana. Kaibelekenya amu kore naari eton eitu duo kiwosh eitu duo kitum ele turrur naa kigira ake atoni. Meeta duo enikiasita kitoni ake nikipuo irkeek nikiponu atoni. Kore pikiponu atum ele turrur le IFAW nikiponu adol mabadiliko amu kore ninye indamunot ang' netabolote. Amu etaa iyata busy iwoshito mpishai nira busy iripita kuna bracelet.
With only 8 months since its inception, ICCA boasts of having improved livelihoods besides its main aim of conservation.
So many youth were unemployed. Currently, we have 8 youth who are community rangers, community scouts. These 8 youth, they bring in an income of, take an instance, an example, maybe 10,000 per person. So that is 80,000 per month circulating in our community.
By the front, quick march! But the success has not been without a fair share of challenges.
Our young people have either dropped out of school or did not go to school at all. So there is a challenge. Where do you get a force that can actually read and write and communicate to the world? But since we cannot get that, and we are dealing with our community, we have turned around and we are saying we want to create a new force of Morans. Previously, in the traditions and cultures of our Maasai people, the Morans were the security of the community. So why can we not turn this round and say we are creating a new force through rangers and scouts to protect the community, to be the security of the community?
I'd say another challenge is, we do want to, where we can, to start small and then kind of spiral that model once we see what works based on the design that we have. But that can mean that other members of a larger community can feel left out, or they want to understand when some of those same benefits will reach them. And so that's just, it requires a constant process of communication.
Makurdi ya wanyama wakitoka katika mlima wakienda kwa maji.
Another integral part in this conservation approach are these scouts who go on daily patrols, collect data on any emerging threats in the forest. We join them today after this short break. Welcome back. At this point, we will join the community scouts who will guide us through Loita Forest to understand their role in conservation. Follow me.
Hii ni urembo, anaenda kwa matope kwanza, alafu anakuja kujirabu against the trees, sababu ya labda wanatoa ticks ama chawa. Kwa hiyo ndio sababu wanafanyaga
Sio kama tuseme maybe kama ana mark njia maybe na alikuwa sipoto.
Haya yote hiyo kwanza venye umesema vizuri, ndio huwa umark way paths. Venye unaona hivyo. Kwa hiyo saa zingine ni kujukuna ama kumark njia. Na akimark njia haizi sahau tena hata miaka 20.
Ni nini sasa inafanyika hapa?
Unakuja sasa, kama hiyo mti unaweza jua kama imetumiwa, imekatwa na kitu sharp, lakini sasa hii ni kama iliangushwa na hii mti ni mkubwa. Kwa hiyo hakuna mnyama yeyote ambayo anaweza angusha kama mti kama huyo, isipokuwa kama sio ndovu. Kwa hiyo hii ni ishara ya kwa kulikuwa na ndovu hapa hivi jana, sababu hata ukiangalia unaona ni fresh.
So tunaandika ereko ndio tupe the correct coordinates. Ereko.
Unapiga nyayo kama kuna nyayo, hata pia kama kuna droppings pia unapiga picha. Hii ni fresh droppings. Inamaanisha hapo mbele penye tunaenda tunaweza kupatana na wao. Hapa hii nyayo inaonekana ni fresh.
Alafu unajua je difference ya fresh droppings na yenye imekaa kidogo?
Unaona hii iko wet kama ni kinyesi ya leo, sababu inakaa green bado.
Ile yenye imekaa
imechakaa, imechange rangi kama inakuwa kama white, lakini iko bado fresh.
So bado
hata ukishika bado ina unyevu.
Naweza shika
hata hii inzi unaona, au sifuata ile yenye makomoni.
Bado iko na maji.
Iko na maji bado.
Ati inzi haiwezi fuata yenye imekaa sana.
Hii inzi anapenda ile fresh. Kwa hivyo hata inzi inaonyesha dalili ni ya fresh. Kwa hiyo ile ambayo imekaa huwezi pata hata inzi karibu.
So bado tunafuata trail.
Yes.
So we are still following the elephant trails to see if we're going to find any elephants. And at this point we're being told to remain silent as the elephants might be close by and they may hear. So silently we follow the trail, see if we're going to get elephants.
Our adventure in the forest led us to this point where we managed to get a view of a few elephants.
Jioni baada ya kazi tunakutanisha report zote, tunaweka katika occurrence book. Alafu hiyo data tunatransfer kwa ofisi yetu.
At around 14-11 hours, 5 matured elephants sighted, red in color, sighted at Norkine.
For a person to become a scout, first of all, they have to be born with that passion. It has to come from within them. This is then where IFAW, through the Ten Boma programs, comes in and assists if it is a particular association, let's say like ICCA at this particular matter. We come, go through various vetting processes. We have to have guidelines which are followed because we are dealing with issues of conservation. You can't just have someone who will be coming and checking on where elephants are, or checking on where trophies are, or checking on where we have the best wood within the forest, and yet they will end up being informants to the wrong people. So particular kind of vetting has to be done. Someone has to have a certificate of good conduct.
What we're seeing in the Mau, it's like the forest was just there for anybody to come in and take. Nobody was responsible. People say it's for the county governments, for the national government. The local people themselves do not feel that they are part and parcel of protecting this environment. Yeah? So people come from other areas. In fact, people who invaded the Maasai Mara forest are not from Narok. Some of them were transported from other areas, from Kericho, from Bomet, from Nakuru, from Kisii, Nyamira, and they just came here. And when they were being brought, the local community did not even question. They just kept quiet. Ni kama ya watu wengine tu. Yeah, but for this one, I'm sure if now somebody comes, like a foreigner comes later today, somebody will ask a question, who are you? What are you coming to do here?
Our big headache in Narok is the issue of forest destruction. And that one has impact in terms of water resources. It has impact in terms of habitat for wildlife. We have critically endangered wildlife species that are resident in this forest. When you look at Mau Forest, we have the second largest population of mountain bongos, other than the one in Salian in Abadeas. The second largest population is here in Mau. But that's the area where we are now having a lot of logging. Loita is a community forest. It's one of the, I can say, well-conserved forests within Narok County at the moment. When you compare it with Mau and Yakweri, Loita is more intact. It has less of human activities.
Samuel Leposo, the Director Tourism and Wildlife in Narok County, also says the approach taken by ICCA is a sustainable one compared to other approaches that have been there before.
ICCA might be using a good approach this time because I see it has incorporated a lot of community interaction, and that's what we are learning from the county government. Because if there's a lot of conservation or community conservation areas or sanctuaries that are very, very successful. If you go to Namibia, South Africa and Tanzania, those countries has a lot of community conservation that are really like up and running.
Faye points out the importance of partnerships and says different organizations bring in different values.
Protected areas are 8%, just under 10% of the national landmass of Kenya. So it's critical to have community support and other NGO stakeholder support, government support, and international entities as well for, to do the work, to implement the work on the ground, to help shape policy, and certainly to fund, these very worthy initiatives.
Conservation starts with you. That's the approach that the Ilkimpa Community Conservation Association has adapted through the International Fund for Animal Welfare's Ten Boma model to conserve Loita Forest. Stakeholders say it's a model that can be replicated in other parts of the country. For the Chamwada report, I'm Lilian Mwelu.
Thank you, Lilian, for that informative report on conservation of Loita Forest. Vital lessons there that can be replicated in other parts of the country as far as environmental conservation is concerned. On behalf of the entire crew and our broadcasting partner, KTN News, thank you so much for watching.